So you've done this process a number of times?
Yes.
More than a dozen times?
Probably. I don't have the exact numbers of the different assemblies who have done that, Sam.
Still no straight answer comes forth. For the next while, the two would-be top dogs argue over patriot stances and whose way's better. The argument goes into mixing scriptures with law and becomes the perfect example of exactly why our founders had enough sense not to attempt to mix religion with government. I refuse to get started on that subject, but I'm infinitely grateful for the founders who had that measure of intelligence. I'm sure neither one of them at that point thought for a moment they were being used by Turner for an opportunity to usurp the entire plan on both sides. I won't bore the audience with the rest of that part of the audio. Finally, the conversation returns to the military claims by Kennedy.
Now, Sam, back to you. You mentioned that the military gave you 4 criteria. What was it that you had to meet?
Well, I'm not. I have certain responsibilities to them. This has been done on the covert. We've had the highest level of contact with them for over a year and have been working diligently toward a final result. And we're at the point of execution. What I can tell you, Kelly, is that they laid out a very specific set of criteria that it will take to get them to respond appropriately. And we have put a process together that fulfills that mandate, and it fulfills it in all 50 states simultaneously, and then sets about deconstructing the de facto institutions on our orders. Now, part of the protocol that we've put together, and this is critical, this is most important, is not to do this publicly. Our analysis of the situation and our discussions with them and many other factors have led us to conclude that a public process will fail for a variety of reasons, which I'm sure you can imagine. But what we intend to do, and what we will be doing shortly, is reversing the effects of 1933 initially behind the scenes and putting an end to foreclosures and an end to tax cases and bringing back the trappings of de jure, eliminating the bonds of the de facto, and a bunch of other things following this protocol, and doing it in a number of different stages, including eventually dismantling the Fed and very quickly restoring the de jure judicial institutions and having de jure identification produced by them on our specifications and a whole bunch of other things. So that while we won't have the satisfaction of a public proclamation, we believe eventually could lead to a civil war situation and certainly could lead to great unrest and misinterpretation by the media. We do believe that there'll be great satisfaction in handling things behind the scenes. As an example, if we have a problem with the state court, we intend to have a judge in the district court of the United States, the issue a writ of mandamus to resolve it for us in our order. The nature of this remedy is following the very brilliant strategy that they used in 1933, where they completely changed the law venues of the society without so much as a peep from anyone in power within the formally de jure institution, and without so much as the slightest recognition from anyone in the public, culminating in the ability to intern 120,000 Japanese Americans in 1942, confiscating all of the country's privately held gold in 1933 with Executive Order 622, and a myriad of other bold moves that they were able to take because operating overtly behind the scenes, they preempted the de jure institution with the de facto institution. So we're not looking to get into it on a county-by-county basis where we're in X number of potential conflicts or controversies with individual judges and bar associations. We're going to take care of the whole thing in one shot.
That, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what they tried to do. Serve the governors of each state with worthless paper, which was taken both as a joke and a black mark on true patriots, and that's what started the targeting of sovereigns with the term domestic terrorist. More on the military myth later in this broadcast. Next, we come to the purpose of the call and whose idea it was.
What are you requesting that I do?
I wasn't making a request here, Kelly. Maybe we're here under a false impression. My friend Tim was somehow we got together over the last week and started discussing this and found out that there were some parallel tracks.
Right.
And he was kind enough to offer to contact you and open up a dialogue. So that's my reason for being here on the phone, and it sounded like and sounds like a good idea.
After that, Kelly insists on the details.
The military will not tolerate any sort of conflict that could lead to any sort of controversy that could lead to conflict. They'll slap martial law down so quick it'll make your head spin.
That was a blatant statement which proves he's lying. The American military have no power to slap down martial law as he claims. They have no wish or intention to act in any way contrary to the Constitution to which they take their oath and the people they are oath to protect. It is clear from this point onward the so-called elders were lying through their teeth about any military involvement at all. I do know now, these many months later, that indeed they were never, and I repeat, never, even in communication with any of these men, and haven't been to this day. Even Turner, who works directly for George Bush Sr., has no inroads or contact with them, and he has been identified as a traitor to this country, along with his boss. The two bulls go back and forth and refuse to share the big secrets with each other, claiming their process will be the first and will do the job, yada, yada, yada. Kennedy goes so far as to claim they are being protected and the military is helping to come up with new passports and IDs. We all know now where that led, and we know the claims of machine theft and money theft were nothing more than a cover for Turner and Company having spent the tens of thousands of dollars collected from the innocent dupes ordering fictitious IDs, but that's another story. I digress. The conversation goes into the usual idiocy over an abandoned de jure and empty seats of government. Listen, folks, there are no empty seats. Those seats are still there, and there are warm butts sitting in them. I will agree those butts are clueless asses, not serving an honor in any way, corrupt to the core, but make no mistake, the people put them there, and the people are responsible for removing them and replacing them lawfully and peacefully. The people are not free to create another government in the shadows and expect to be successful in forcing it on the public at large. The call enters the real big bowl, as Kennedy claims the three of them are the country's only salvation from a coming bloody war, and on, claims an imminent banking holiday and foreign invasions, you name it. 2 years seems quite a while for imminent, but maybe I'm just unreasonable when expecting people to put facts where their mouths are. Kennedy gets into the insistence that all the criminals are forgiven. Well, folks, I have a major problem with that particular idiocy. We are well aware now exactly the level of heinous crimes our elected officials have engaged in, and I do not support forgiveness in any manner. Forgiveness is God's realm. In man's realm, accountability is absolutely necessary and required for all human beings who harm another, period. That is what common law is based on, not a slap on the hand for thieves, murderers, pedophiles, rapists, and torturers. Later in the call, Kennedy asked Kelly, again, how many people are coming to his so-called convention, and still he cannot answer and changes the subject. Then they go down the patriot rabbit hole of silly opinion on real history and arguing scripture versus law, etc. Now we fast forward to a statement made on the call by Sam Kennedy. Each and every listener out there has heard Tim Turner claim over and over and over again that the Constitution is the law of the land and, untruthfully, that it supersedes the Articles of Confederation, and he has resurrected it until we all want to puke. Here's what the so-called guardians of rap really thought of the Constitution.
Is the Constitution a lovely, hallowed document that the founders brought forth? The Constitution is a propaganda piece of garbage that facilitated military enforcement of the debt that was owed and which was disavowed by 11 of the 13 colonies under the Articles of Confederation. Hello? Tim?
Kelly states he's in full agreement with that view. Up until now, in this recorded conversation, we can see one motive for government plant Turner to want to infiltrate and ultimately take over both movements. But the bigger reason is where it always is, the money.
And you think you're going to do that by commercial process and then bringing it to outside, to non-domestic financial institutions, and they're going to somehow do you have a plan to redistribute the wealth back to the people?
Yes. It always was their wealth. Nobody has the authority to hang on to anything that is stolen or plundered possession. And so we're going to be going after the wealth of those individuals, the fiduciaries, who plundered that wealth. We're also going to be going to the beneficiaries of that trust and taking their assets along with that.
The beneficiaries of the trust. Well, actually, the people are the beneficiaries of the trust.
Talking about the bad trust.
I'm sorry?
We're talking about the purported beneficiaries who are holding the equitable interest from the plundered. So you've got this whole Federal Reserve system, as you're well aware, and you've got the fiduciaries on the downside, the bar members, legislators, Congress. They're the fiduciaries of that trust. Then you have the beneficiaries of that trust, who are the world money brokers, and they're holding stolen property. Could be in possession of stolen property. So they're the beneficiaries of that trust. Of course, the men and women hold the true asset. And our asset has been taken through all the graft, which you're well aware of. Reassigning those parties, but doing it lawfully by the authority of the men and women. In so doing, we will be giving those orders lawfully to the military to assist in that and offering to join forces with them and work with them to get this accomplished.
Have you pre-cleared that with anyone in the military?
No.
Exactly. He talks about the bad trust. Most of you out there don't know what the bad trust is. That trust consists of over 800 accounts placed around the world containing plunder the Bush-Clinton crime syndicate has amassed since the Vietnam War. Drug money, blood money, stolen booty, war profits, etc. That trust was blocked from the syndicate some time ago, and Bush Sr.'s been trying every day since to get it back, to no avail. However, even those who hold access to that trust cannot move the assets without risking their lives, and some have already lost them, or having it stolen right back again the moment a transaction takes place. It's the most dangerous pile of ill-gotten gain this world has ever seen. Remember the trust when I revisit the issue later in the broadcast. They agree to meet again and discuss the joining of the groups after Kennedy reveals communications with the Vatican, etc. Of course, everything he says